Welcome to our weekly Forex forecast, and this is for the week of November 4th to the 8th, 2019. Just a quick disclaimer here before we get started. This is for educational purposes only. Trading is a risky business, so please be careful with your money. As usual, we'll start off by taking a look at our calendar here. All right, so the weekly calendar here, starting the week off here, we do have a retail sales number out of Australia, which are important. So it's likely to have an impact on Australian dollar. And then on Monday, we have a bunch of PMI numbers out of the Eurozone. So PMI numbers are important. And this will, they are precursors to our retail sales and GDP numbers later on. So PMI data generally has an impact on the market. So if the numbers are below expectations, like we saw for the US, where the numbers were below expectations last week, and we saw US dollar essentially get crushed as a result of that. And then we also have a change here. Our ECB new president is going to start here, and it will be interesting to pay attention to these comments because now with Draghi's term being over and new leadership being in place for ECB, this will basically, this may not be the most important meeting, but it will at least show what ECB is thinking going forward, how the new leadership will impact the policies that ECB basically does going forward. So good to pay attention to the comments here. They could have an impact on euro, but at this point, because it's the first speech, it may not have that big of a difference, but it's important to understand what the new leadership, what direction they want to go in, because that could have an impact. Okay, we also have a Reserve Bank of Australia rate statement. At this point, they're not looking to cut rates. They have cut rates in the past, but again, the commentary will be important. So we saw with Bank of Canada, we saw a Canadian dollar drop because Bank of Canada did not cut rates, but their comments were very dovish. And one of the things they mentioned was that they talked about cutting rates, and just those words, they talked about it, considered it, those were just negative, and they set a bearish tone for Canadian dollar, and we saw Canadian dollar drop as a result of that. So any kind of comments like that that show future direction for the central bank could have an impact on the currency. From what I recall, last time Reserve Bank of Australia said that they're not looking to cut rates at this point, and they haven't provided any forward guidance. So should they provide forward guidance? So for example, if they say they're concerned about the global economic conditions, so that could be negative and have a negative impact on Australian dollar, because that means the Reserve Bank of Australia is likely to have basically they'd be easing further. But if they say they're going to wait and see, that's usually a positive or taken as a positive comment, which means they're going to hold things the way they are, stable, and they're not going to change anything, which is generally a good sign, and we could see Australian dollar go up as a result of that. On Tuesday here, we do have services PMI here. Again, an important data point for UK here. Any drop here would have a negative impact on British pound here. We have trade balance numbers here, with trade being so important. If we see a drop in the trade balance number, that is very likely to have a negative impact on Canadian dollar. So especially with the whole monetary policy easing and Bank of Canada cutting the forecast, then we get a negative trade balance number. All of that will be negative because now everybody will start expecting Bank of Canada to cut rates. So something to keep in mind there. And then we have more PMI numbers out of US here. Again, if they are negative or below expectations like we saw on Friday here, then we're likely to see a drop in the US dollar. Employment numbers out of New Zealand, again, below expectations number will cause a drop. If they're good, then we're likely to see that, see them go forward. And then we have services PMI numbers Now, most of these Western economies are service-based, so services numbers are a little bit more important than the manufacturing PMI numbers. So there's these numbers are important to pay attention to. On Thursday here, we have central banks. So we had a ton of central banks last week. And now we have, so here, before we go into Bank of England, we have economic forecast for EU. Now, we saw that Bank of Canada cut the forecast for Canada or Canadian economy. So if we get something similar from EU as well, that is likely to have a negative impact on Europe. But if we see that they're holding the forecasts as stable, that would be positive, and we could see Euro go up as a result. Bank of England here. Bank of England not really likely to change anything at this point, especially with upcoming elections in December now. They're not likely to make any changes at the moment, but they have been quite bullish or relatively bullish in their commentary, because they have not indicated any kind of cuts of any sort or easing of monetary policy. If they stay with the same type of commentary, then not expecting it to drop. We could see it go up, because that would show as a, or that would be seen as a sign of strength. However, if they at all turn their comments in any way, shape, or form into dovish comments, that are likely to have, or that's likely to have more of a negative impact than the positive impact from holding a status quo. So just something to keep in mind there. And then we have monetary policy statement from Reserve Bank of Australia. So we would have already seen the impact of this before this, but again, sometimes we see a secondary impact as well. And then on Friday here, we have Canadian employment numbers, with Canadian dollar being so beaten down. If the numbers come out positive, we could see the numbers lift up the Canadian dollar a bit. All right, so that's what we have for this week here. Now let's look at our charts. Okay, we'll start off with our euro dollar here. So euro has had a good week this week. It is still trading in that range here. Last week we did see a decline, but price was not able to really break below the support number or support resistance level. So now we are back towards the top of this range. So for the last 2 weeks, basically, price hasn't really done much. It dropped and then went back. And now we are back where we were 2 weeks ago. So at this point, we do have a bullish candle close, but the concern would be the top of this range. If price does not get through, this one could turn around. Okay, so this is what I would look for. Retest of the high here at 1.1180. If it doesn't go through, we could see a drop first towards the bottom of the range here that we've seen price trade for the last 2 weeks. And then if something gets more negative than that, we could see a drop. So that's one scenario, but it is bullish right now. So bias is to the upside here. And we have to see price go through first. So the target here is 1250 is the next one here, 1.1250, and then 1.1300 will be the next target here. For this, we need to see a break of the top of the range here. And once price breaks through the top of the range, I would look for a pullback, a hold above, and then we're looking for the next move higher. And overall, though, price is holding this bullish bias here, so we could see it go higher. So bias here for euro dollar is bullish, and the caution would be, will it break through the high? If it doesn't, then we're looking for price to come back into the range here towards the bottom of the range. So for now, bias is bullish. First target 1.1250, and then 1.1300 for euro dollar. Pound here, pound has also been bullish here. We did see it drop last week, but then FOMC was not very good for the US dollar and we saw everything turn around because of FOMC here. Now we see that price held above our support resistance levels here. We do have a bullish candle close, so bias is bullish. But again, this is the range that price has been trading in for the last 3 weeks here, same as euro dollar here. So what I would look for is a retest of the high of the range. And if it doesn't go through, then we're likely to see this drop, because it is an important support resistance level. And because of that, if price doesn't go through, we are definitely looking for a turnaround. But bias is bullish should it go through. And once we see a break above and hold, next target would be 1.3200. And then further ahead, we have 1.3300. So bias is bullish for pound dollar as well. Aussie dollar here, very similar. We saw price go up last week. So we have a big bullish close. And FOMC did not do any favors for the US dollar. It's good. President Trump does like Fed dropping rates or cutting rates, because it's good for the exports. When the currency is cheap, more people are likely to export or buy stuff from that currency. So exports go up as a result. Now, this is where we are. Price has broken through this previous candle's high here, previous week. This pin bar here, this is actually a failed pin bar. So it did not drop here. So now we have a bullish engulfing candle, looking for price to, again, go higher here. I will look for a pullback towards 0.6880. If it holds above, it's likely to go higher. So bias is bullish. And then this entire move can get filled here. And we could see price go all the way towards 0.7050. So bias here is bullish. And first target is 0.70, second target 0.7050. New Zealand dollar here, this one is also bullish. Now price is into resistance, so just be mindful of that. We are right into the support resistance level. So we'll have to see it go through for it to really have the bullish bias. But at this point, we have a bullish candle close. We have to look for that further move to the upside. What I'm looking for here is a break again, and we need the price to hold on the other side before it continues higher. So this has to become a support, and then we can look for that move higher. So the next target here is 0.6550 and then 0.6550. Bias is bullish for New Zealand dollar. Dollar CAD here, this one has not, so this is what I was talking about. When we saw our Bank of Canada announcement, there was a big move up because Canadian dollar went down, but now we see that price is into resistance because US dollar has not been that good. US dollar has been very weak after the FOMC. So we can see that price is actually in this range here. So this is where we are. This is the overall range that price has been trading in. On Bank of Canada, it went all the way back to 1.3223200. And now the test will be, can it stay below this? And I will look for price to actually drop with this one because the candle here is neutral and US dollar is not very strong right now. Even though Canadian dollar is weak, but US dollar has been very weak right now, or is very weak right now. So this one is a tug of war at this point. So it's a neutral bias. I will look for a retest of the high. If it stays below 3,200, I'm actually looking for price to drop here towards 1.3050. So bias here is bearish, or actually I should say neutral, but as long as it stays below 1.3200, I'm looking for it to go back down towards 1.3050. So neutral bias here for dollar CAD. Euro pound here, this one has actually just traded in a range here. It's held below this previous support resistance level, hasn't really gone anywhere. It tried to go higher, didn't really get very far, and now we just have a range bound move. At this point, it's slightly bearish, so I will look for price to move towards 0.8580, which is the bottom of this little range it's been trading in. So right now, bias for Euro Pound is sideways to slightly bearish. Okay, Euro Swiss franc here. This one has been range bound for the last 2-3 weeks here. So this is the range that price has been trading in. But what's good about this one here is that price has rejected the support resistance level multiple times now. And we have a weekly pin bar here. So I will look for price to drop. I am looking for a bit of a pullback. So let's take a look at the daily real quick here. So we did see a drop through, and then price pulled back here. So here we could still get a bit of a pullback towards 1.3040 approximately, and then a drop. Now the test here will be the bottom of this range that price has been trading in for some time, which is at 1.0970. If price holds above this level here, then we're likely to see it go back up. Now, for this one to continue lower, we need to see a break to the bottom and then a continuation, because if the break doesn't happen, chances are very high that this would go back up. So at this point, bias is bearish. First target is 1.0970, and only if it goes through that level would I look for 1.0920. Otherwise, I would look for price to kind of turn around and go back towards the high of the range. For now, bias is bearish for Euro Swiss franc. Pound Swiss franc here, this one is our daily chart, but it's interesting right now because it's going sideways here. But if you look at it, what we have here, if we were to move this here, is that price is just stalling there, and we could see this kind of a rounded top formation where price goes, need a free hand. So price just kind of goes like this, and if it doesn't go through, we could see this one come back down here. So that's what we need to wait for. At this point, that move hasn't quite started, because right now what we have is price just consolidating sideways. And for this one to happen, we need to see price go through 1.2680, because if it doesn't go through it, what we could see is a flat formation higher. So at this point, this is a wait and see type of scenario, and we have to wait for price to actually give us that indication. For now though, we do have a bearish pin bar here on the weekly, as well as daily is showing a nice pin bar as well, but we need to wait for it to break down here. So bias is bearish. First target is bottom here, 1.2680. This support resistance level, as we can see, going down here, price struggled, and then this was the level it used to go back down. So here we'll have to see, is this the level it's going to use to go back up, or is it going to break down here? That's the decision that time will tell, and price will show us when that happens. For now, I'm just looking for a drop towards 1.2680, and only if it goes through that level would I look for this one here, which is 1.2480. But for now, first target is 1.2680, and then we'll see which way it wants to go. So bias is bearish for pound Swiss franc. Dollar Swiss franc here, US dollar got hammered here, and everything was negative. So dollar Swiss franc here is also negative. We have a bearish candle close, looking for price to drop further. 0.9800 is the next target, and then below that we have 0.9720. So bearish bias for dollar Swiss franc. Pound yen here. Pound yen has been showing this rounded formation, just like we talked about pound Swiss franc here, pound Swiss franc. The problem again is it hasn't quite completed it yet. It hasn't quite done that. So we don't know whether it wants to drop, or is it going to go forward, go higher. So right now, we do have a slightly bearish bias with this one. We did have a bearish candle, price pulled back, but hasn't really been able to go through it. So it's still bearish. I'm looking for it to drop further towards 138.60, which is right into here, or 50, 138.50. And this is where the decision point is likely to be. If we don't get a break here, if price does not break down, again, it can go forward and go higher here. But should it break down, then there is this big room to the downside that opens up. But it's not 100% sure that it will break down. So there's all this optimism here from Brexit that's still there in the currency. So price hasn't really moved forward. But now that the deadline has passed, October 31st, and we are into the next chapter now, there's likely to be more volatility in the pound. But prior to that, I am looking for a pullback, and I'm looking for price to drop a bit. But it has been very, very stubborn. So if it doesn't drop, chances are it will go forward, especially with the Fed now. Fed basically doing the cut and then having that dovish tone. They're not likely to raise rates, they're going to cut rates if anything. So that is overall very dovish for the US dollar, and it's good for the equity markets. So that's what we have here. So we have to wait and see which direction that goes, because both of those things will have an impact on this. So for now, bias is bearish, and first target is 138.80 and then 138. And then we'll see if it goes below this level or not. But for now, slightly bearish bias for pound yen. Euro yen here, this one is also the same. So we saw price go into this resistance. It's still holding below this level. But again, this one has been very choppy, just back and forth. Now, my bias is still to the downside on this. But like I said, it has been very, very range bound and choppy. So there's no clear direction at this point. What I like about it is there's rejection at the top. What I would look for here would be just a move back down here towards the bottom here, 120. If price, so right now this is range bound here. If price drops to 120, that's a good sign. We need to see it drop below that, because that opens up this entire move up. We could see that get filled. And that's what I'm looking for. But again, it has been difficult. So if it goes here and doesn't drop down, chances are this one is also going back up towards the top of the range. So for now, slightly bearish bias here, but this is one of those pairs that could provide a good opportunity, but it's a matter of waiting for it. So right now, bearish bias for Euro Yen as well. Dollar Yen, on the other hand, US dollar, like I said, has really been weak. And as a result, we have seen this drop. We have a bearish candle close here. Bias is definitely bearish. So first target here is 107.80, which is really close. And so we're looking for 107.20 and then 106.50. So bias is bearish here for dollar yen. Aussie yen, another one that has been, that has gotten turned around. Aussie has been strong here, but we are right into the support resistance level. So the important thing here will be how does price react? If we see, so what I'm looking for here, bias is bullish, first of all. But if price goes into the high and doesn't go through, then I will look for a drop here. However, if price goes through the high, then we're looking for this continuation to the upside into the next target at 76.20. So bias here is bullish, but with caution, because if price doesn't get through this, it's likely to drop. But for now, bullish candle, so looking for further move higher. 76.20 is the next target. New Zealand yen, this one has also been going sideways here. We see for the last 2 weeks here, price has just been trading in this range. It went to test the high, it hasn't broken the high or the low. So it's just been range bound at this point. This one I'm more neutral on because we do have a bullish candle, but it's not as solid here. So our pin is about the same size as the candle body, which is not the most solid candle, so more neutral here. At this point, what I will look for is a retest of the high. If price stays below 70.00, then I'm looking for it to drop. And again, this is where all the yen crosses are kind of in this scenario where if it breaks through the support, then it opens up this whole move to the downside, because this is the range that price has been trading in. And once it gets through this level here, then opens up the entire move. This is the range. If it rejects the top of the range, then we can quite easily just let a trade run to the bottom of the range. But for now, we have to wait and see. So first thing here is neutral bias. And I will look for retest of the high, rejection. If it rejects, looking for the bottom of this range here at 68.80. But should it go through, we have next target at 70.60, and then it could go all the way into 71.50. So neutral bias here for New Zealand yen. All right, CAD yen here. CAD yen has dropped quite a bit here because of the negative Bank of Canada statement, their monetary policy statement. It is into support here, so just be careful. We do have a bias to the downside. We have a nice bearish candle close. What I would look for is a pullback into this area right here, and then a drop from here to the bottom of this range again. For last 3 weeks, price has just gone up and come back down, hasn't really moved that much. So I'm looking for a pullback and a drop right into 81.80. If it doesn't go through, I will look for a move back into the range here and just a sideways move. But if all the other yen crosses drop, this one would also provide us a good opportunity, because this move up will get unraveled and we could see a move all the way down here. But again, we need to wait and see. So for now, my bias is bearish. First target is 81.80, and only if it gets through. Next target here would be 81, and then 79.80, but this is the critical point. All right, let's take a look at commodities here. Silver. Silver has a bullish pin bar. Okay, this one pulled back quite a bit, but it's still holding above here. So we have a bullish pin bar. I'm looking for price to go higher here into this previous pin, which is at 18.30. So bullish bias, 18.50 is next, and then 18.60 will be the following target here. The important thing here is that it's holding above this previous support resistance level. So it continues to make higher highs, and it's holding above. So we could see this move higher here. But do keep an eye on equities, because this is one of the safe haven assets. So if silver starts to go up, yen crosses are likely to drop. They are correlated. So we are likely to see the opposite move in both of these. So gold, silver go up, and Japanese yen crosses start to drop when this move happens. So for now, bias is bullish, 18.30, then 18.60. So 18.30, 18.50, 18.60, those will be the targets. And then basically, if this move starts to happen, then we'll look for higher targets. For now, though, just looking for slightly higher targets here. And as we can see, this is the range that price is stuck in. So we're just looking for price to go towards the top of the range now. And bias is bullish for silver. Gold here is also looking bullish. It did not drop. It's still stuck in that range, but now we're looking towards higher levels of the range. It really formed a base here, so wasn't able to break through, even though there were multiple attempts to break down, it didn't. So now looking for move higher. We do have a bullish candle close, but do keep in mind we are right into resistance, and price hasn't been able to break the resistance either. So it truly has been range bound for the longest time here. So what I'm looking for at this point would be a break through this high or through this resistance at 1520. If it breaks out, then we are likely to see this move higher. But if it doesn't break through 1520, chances are it will do this, just like it had a nice bullish candle here, but then it went higher and then turned around. So keep an eye on this. Bias is bullish. I would suggest a little bit of caution here though, because it's the top of the range or top of the immediate range, but bullish bias once it gets through 1520, looking at 1536, and then we could see a move all the way into 1555 level. So bullish bias here for gold. Oil here, oil actually had dropped, but then went back up. So at this point, it is trading in this range and it's stuck here for a few weeks here. We've been stuck in this range. It's just been going back and forth. So at this point, it's neutral. According to me, I am looking to see if it holds below 56.80. So if price holds below 56.80, then I'm looking for price to come back towards the bottom of the range. But because there's such a large pin here, which shows rejection, what could happen is we could see price retest the high, and if it goes through, then we could see a move high. So a lot of these pairs right now are at important levels, and this is where we need to see. October was a very volatile month because we had US-China trade relations, Brexit really made some big moves here. Now that those things are kind of behind us, although US and China relationship is going to come to a forefront again, because we have seen some opposing comments from the two sides. President Trump said they're close to signing an agreement or a short-term agreement. China came out with a comment saying that they don't really see a long-term agreement being reached at any time soon. So, or their hopes for a long-term agreement are basically going down. So at this point, with the short-term agreement being signed, that should give a lift to the markets, which will be positive for the equity markets, and then negative for the safe haven assets. But if we start seeing more comments that they are not able to come to an agreement, that will be negative for the market. So basically what I'm saying is once we hear those comments about short-term agreement being signed, they are likely to be positive, giving the market a lift. And then over the long term, market could still drop because they haven't really reached a long-term agreement yet. So that's what I would expect, more volatility essentially is what I'm saying. But the Brexit stuff is a little bit, it will take a backseat for now till the election time comes around. So I'm looking for markets to give us some new direction now. For this one, going back to oil here, if it goes through the high, I would look for the next target here, 58.70, which is also the second range that price has been trading in. But for now, it's in this immediate range. And if it doesn't break the 57 mark, I'm looking for it to drop. Copper here, copper is similar here. We have slightly bearish candle here. So at this point, I am looking, so I have a slightly bearish bias for copper. What I'm looking for here is a retest of the high. If it stays below, I'm looking for it to basically come back down towards the bottom of the range. For the last 2 weeks, it has been range bound. So looking for it to price to drop to 2.58. All right, now Bitcoin. Bitcoin, I don't have the latest move here, so I don't have the weekend move, so please do check your charts for that. But based on the Friday's close here, if price holds above 89.60, it's likely to go higher. But for now, we'll have to just look at the weekend move and see where it goes. If it drops through here, then we have this big open area where it could drop. So it's right at that support level where we're looking for a further direction here. So please do check your weekend move and see where it falls. As long as it's holding above this 89.60 level, I will look for a move higher. Should it drop through that, then we have this whole area open. Then bias will be bearish. For now, I'm neutral on Bitcoin. Equity markets have been crazy. FOMC was a big drive for the equity markets moving higher. We have seen S&P 500 here break through the highs, looking quite bullish here. The momentum is there to the upside. So next target is 3081 and then 3100. Those are the two next targets here. But I would be careful with this one. There's a lot of optimism in the market right now because of the Fed. But if US and China comments start coming out and we start to hear negative comments, we're likely to see a drop. But should we hear positive comments out of US and China, this is likely to go higher. So at this point, bias is bullish. It is holding above this previous resistance level. So it is looking quite bullish at the moment. 3080 and 3100 are the next two targets for S&P 500. Same thing here with Nasdaq as well. This is the daily chart, but I want to look at a closer chart. So as we can see here, price is holding above the previous resistance level. So this one is also at all-time highs, and it broke through the previous level. It was range bound here, and it looked like it could drop, but it did not. So this one is going forward here as well. So looking quite bullish. 8200 is the next target for Nasdaq here. DAX as well. This one is looking bullish. I'm just going to stick to the daily charts here just so we can see some of the price moves here. As we can see, it's holding above. So this is looking bullish, and I will look for move higher. Actually, I will change to a weekly chart so we can see more price here. Okay, so the next target here for DAX here is 13,140. And actually, I seem to have lost one of my charts. Okay, so for DAX here, 13,150. So 13150 will be the next target here. Bias is bullish. It's holding above, did a retest, and now it's looking bullish. So bullish bias for DAX here. This one here, FTSE is just kind of going sideways, but what we see here is it is holding above this previous support resistance level. So this one is looking bullish here. 7350 is the first target here. If it goes through this, then there's room to the upside here, 7380, and then we have tons of room higher above this one as well. This one at this point is range bound, and I will look for a move towards 7350. Only if it breaks through that, then 7380. So bullish bias for FTSE as well. And then Nikkei here, this one is also holding above. It was dropping, but it held above this previous support resistance level. Now looking bullish. It is still in the range here. So we do need to see a break out of the range for it to continue. But as we can see, this is a bullish pin bar here. And next target here for Nikkei is 23,450. So bullish bias for Nikkei as well. And let me just pull up one more chart here, which is our, someone had requested this. I've added it to my daily, but for some reason it's missing again, which is our Dow Jones. If you see it, here we go. Okay, let's take a look at Dow here. This one is also the wrong thing. My apologies. I got too many charts open. Okay, this is, just need to give it a moment. I made a mistake there and applied my profile again. And now it's going to open all my charts, 400 of them. Okay, so, but Dow Jones is also looking bullish here. So overall, everything is bullish in terms of our equities. So let's go back. I will be doing, I'll be doing a spreadsheet. So if you would like to download the spreadsheet with the targets for all the pairs that we discussed, including commodities and equities, you can go to tradingwithvenus.com/forecast and you will receive the spreadsheet. If you've already done it once, you don't need to do it again because I will email it to you. All right, so that's it for now. Have a great trading week, and I will see you again on Monday for the daily analysis. Okay, bye for now.